talks upcoming, and you can use this QR code here to see that schedule. If you click your badges together, you'll notice a little button at the bottom. If you click them together, you can connect with other people. At the end of the day, we'll send you an export of your contact list. It's a great way to get connected with other people, and it's a convenient way to get those contacts at the end of the day. Our engineers are also doing demos. You'll see the demo bar in Orion hallway throughout the day. It's marked by the yellow star right here. So check out our Spectra boiling station as well in the Orion hallway, and we'll be back at 10:40 to start our segment on multi-agent frontiers starting with. So enjoy your break, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, our break is ending soon. Our next session will begin in 5 minutes. Please make your way to Titan.
then share with you some key learnings and takeaways along the way. Some of the good stuff, some of the ones we don't do this, that. Okay? So, first thing, so we can get all the way, so we can all understand what we're talking about. Customer experience at Cisco. Cisco is a $56 billion plus company with half of the recurring revenue of the company. So we have more than $26 billion that runs on this. So talk with LangChain like, hey, you're not joking here. So there is a lot of implications for that. And everything on customer experience is meant to maximize the value that the customer gets from investment in all Cisco products and services or technology. So we have the typical land and optics and review framework that everybody has on the industry to go through. That is the process that we go through. But when you talk about any company, there is always process, people, and technology. In those kind of conferences, a lot of people think about the technology. There's a lot of hype, but they always come together with the teams that work with them and the process that go with it. So I meant to start with this. So we have land, adoption, and reviews, and actually there are people and organizations that goes with it. So you have a customer success organization that actually is in charge of when someone acquires something from Cisco Cloud product, there is an adoption team that makes sure that you adopt whatever you find, right? And there is an organization that is used to make sure that when the end of the term comes, you are happy enough to actually renew your subscription. And usually, more often than not, during that period, we expand our relationship with the customer. There is obviously technical support, which a lot of you match to this, and other organizations like implementation service delivery. I'm talking about 10,000 people organization. So there's a lot of things that could be improved. And from that lens, what we are doing is adopting AI to help us not only on optimizing the process, but optimizing for people and maximizing the returns to the business. And that's a very important thing because if you look at the left hand of this slide, I'm talking about how we make customer experience unimaginable. And by that, I'm going to hyper-personalization, proactive, and predictiveness. But we're not talking about agentic AI overall. It doesn't come out of the blue and like, hey, agentic AI is a good thing. We started with machine learning for big AI over a decade. So treat very well the data science team because they're going to be treated for that. Then we come for the LLMs and AI, which are very good for everything that has to do with interactions of language. There is an element on the middle of this for a reason. LLMs are really bad for predicting. So when you bring this together, you can have multiple agents that will for work. So with that said, our vision is the future of Cisco customer experience, and you've been working on this for over 2 years now. And a lot of companies are coming to help understand how we're doing this, and that's part of the reason why in this conference, of the very strong partnership we have with Harrison and his team. We are going for using agentic AI to eliminate CX to become an agentic CX by providing personalized, predictive, and proactive experience to all of our customers. Together, not separate. Hyper-personalization, how we can predict failures before they happen, how we can be proactive of field notice, or even best practice that goes there. We are leveraging multiple agents by multiple agents, like that. There's human and machine type of agents, GenAI, and traditional AI. We are providing services that goes for users that call their life. You can call on a video call, on a chat interface, or a phone call, or they have a tool for API calls and MCP calls. And the agentic CX provide a lot of identified like advanced technical support, elite intelligent operations, and all of this is meant to help customers to have recommendations that are proactive. So we want to avoid them to face an issue if we can. We want to give them predictive insights and make this hyper-personalized foresight in the sense that every person should have a vision of themselves, which has context for them. So context is a very important thing for us, and we are going beyond what we know about MCP context. It's a big thing that is out there. With that said, let me go, now that you're all PhD what we do, let me talk a little bit about use cases and why you drive from a use case approach as opposed to a tools approach. So, just sharing an experience with you. When you start about a year and a half ago, obviously GPT was a big name in town, and everybody was trying to try it. GPT 3.0 was but it still was not, right? Unbelievable. But before we had everybody trying to do a chatbot or whatever it is. So the first thing is before we even go to the use cases, we define the criteria that would make the use case belong in the first place. Because we have an advisory part of our services. We enter a customer that the customer had 412 use cases for it. And when you go with them, it ends up being 5 that actually collaborate together. So what? This is less than 10%. So we define a criteria to say any use case that we want customer experience. Remember, in the organization, there's a lot of creative people, a lot of ideas. Right? We must fit one of those 3 buckets. We must have use cases that help customers get immediate value and maximize what they invest in. And that's where reuse and adoption as an agent goes in. Same applies on how we make up those people want to think about it. That's where everything we support will go in. And then the whole correlation and agentic workflows provide visibility and insights across the whole life cycle. So there is a method to the madness here if you're thinking. And if you leave it alone, you're just going to do your own thing, and it's going to come to you and say, hey, here's how cool it is. So how does manifest in the business? So define the use case criteria first. Then put the use case on top of this, and that's how we structure the work of LangChain, because now we stitch the pieces, because the agents develop a good organization. So with that said, we obviously have a high level stack. I can go into detail. We have a physical tool that goes deeper, including on what we did yesterday. So we start with the need for our use case to have flexible deployment models. What I mean by that, we have customers like federal customers, healthcare and some others that requires on-premises deployment. By on-premise, I'm not talking a VPC or AWS. I'm talking a physical data center with the devices. We have clouds and we have hybrid on it. So we need to choose some criteria, like security, compliance. There are customers in Europe that have heavy regulations. There are some others that are more B2C. The bulk of our business is B2B, business, not only B2C. So when you do for that, we start to power the best-in-class AI technologies. We chose Mr. Alash, and we work very closely with each other, even to the development of the models, to run practices. And we have both sonnets, the latest from Sonnet 3.7, and GPT, ChatGPT from 4.1 all the way to 3 for some of these cases. That is empowered altogether for LangChain. In the demo, we're going to see that we have the same agentic framework running on-premises on the data set in Hamilton without any change. So what he's saying on the release, we've been doing this in production for a long time at scale. So what Harrison says is not highlighted, it's actually works. It's an interesting thing. And we use the agentics on both origins on the top, and we did end up doing custom AI models. By custom AI models, I'm talking about both creating machine learning models that are for predictions, that we train for the signals, and fine-tuning LLMs, especially the conference, that high accuracy some of our cases. With that said, here I want to do one slide before I deep dive on some of the tech aspects. So remember that I mentioned to you the process, then the document, and the people. So now I'm going to land the technology power. So if you look at the use cases, we have shipping deployed in production at scale for over 6 months. Reusation that applies to reduced speed and predicted insights. This is LLM combination with machine learning. We have support with the virtual data engineers that augment our support people to actually go past the next best thing. Automate the resolution of the low priority without human touch at scale. I talk about 1.6 to 1.8 million cases a year. Then we go 60% of that is fully automated. And beyond that, integrated this directly into the product and sentiment analysis across the whole life cycle, which is an important tool. But I want to highlight that we have stuff that is deployed, and Harrison is absolutely right, experimentation and production are 2 different pieces. But you're also talking about limited availability. So we interacted in together. We have the subject matter experts in the cohort who work with us. So I understand what questions they're going to ask, because the reuse people is going to ask reuse related question. The adoption people adoption related question. It sounds obvious, but it's a lot of things on the process. They interact with the customer after they develop the cool stuff. You shouldn't do that. You should go to them before and say, hi, what do you need? And then you build the AI to help them. So, but at the same time, even though we have limited availability and extending with the LangChain for the supervisor approach that we show, we also have a lot that is on experimentation. Because we want to build pipelines for the use case that come. So those three things were set up. Ideally on three different teams. And I'll touch upon this soon. So let me take one of those as an example on the reducer system. The business value that we start with is why do I need to build a reduce agent? Well, over half of my business is recurring revenue, and I have a lot of time that those people with wasting just try to chase dashboards and tools. So anything that I can bring back and do operational work for them means it translates directly correlation to financial results. Less time spent in useless stuff means more purchasing, means more business that go on, not only structure, means higher results. There is a direct correlation to the business. Not how to justify the investment. Okay, right? And at the same time, we wanted to correlate this with real-time sentiment to the customers and provide summarization that are hyper-personalized to the person. So you are renewed on financial services industry, so I only explain what's the new trends for financial services. It's a completely different than a healthcare or a government for that deal. So with that said, we had over multiple 50 different data sets that were going around and a zoo of tools, as you can imagine, for every review event. And the result for us was actually a reduction of 20% of the time, which is less than 3 weeks. And then 50%. So the business impact was increasing, and we have high accuracy of risk recommendation. I was the one that the team loved and hated me at that point. I said, we're going to go 95% accuracy and higher. And we accomplished that and explained this yesterday. People in the book can tell you how we got it. So let me go a little bit on the week. How we did that. So let me go a little explain how the event still works. So here's the question. Typical question for the reviews person. What step coming reviews started for customer X, Y, Z, and the action required to minimize its potential risk? It's a very fair question, but if you think about it, I need to know what's the customer, then I need to know what products the customer bought. I need to know what dates this product was on so I can get the circle of reviews. I need to understand what the current status is. And if the customer has multiple products, they may be happy with the product A and not happy with product B. And maybe the review will be compromised on that. So there's a lot of stimulus and intelligence that goes on. So having a single agent for this was not ideal because you don't get to the accuracy level that we're talking about. So we needed to go, before supervisor was a thing of that Harrison this morning, we came with a supervisor approach, which is basically receives the NLP and decomposes the NLP. And because the question is about a reduce agent, it hits the reduce agent immediately. Then the reduce agent gets the context. And then he calls himself the adoption agent and the delivery agent to understand what's the status of the customer now. So I can answer half of the question on the pipeline. And you can see this on the LangChain and all the things going. How we can compose the question so we can learn and leverage some of this. But that's active in parallel behind the scenes. Not 100% autonomous yet because we still have human review. But sentiment analysis is something that I can trigger any time. But if there is a question, I can practically go and trigger the sentiment analysis of all the systems and come back, hey, this customer hates us, come back, having lost us or something like that. Right? And at the same time, I want to make sure what is the install base that this customer has is a competitive cloud interface because we open a page, we are too expensive, or we miss a functionality, whatever it is. So I'm not about system, but I appreciate the fact that a lot of you have similar scenarios on your projects, especially when you have a lot of things that goes on. So then when you get out of the first part of the question and you get the real focus on customer experience. As customer experience is all about workflow. The support ticket follows a workflow. A renewals process follows a workflow. Adoption follows a workflow. If you think about it, everything is not very different workflow. They're with the link. They're not metadata. They're trained on information that goes there. When you do agentic with the tools like LangChain, it helps a lot. So we went from this and you go to workflow, and And if the second part of the question is about risk, I need a predictive machine learning model. Why? Because it's very deterministic. The other than is very probabilistic. So we combine both to get to the accuracy level, and we leverage LangChain to make complex carrying back and forward and LangChain to tracing it. Going to the point that we receive the answer, we do the final research and answer it back to the internal. Now, you can go deeper on this, and I don't have time for that, but I want to share you something. This is our CX against AI in action. I have 7 agents on that assembly. Over time, we may decompose them with some of the features. That's okay. The point of against AI, a lot of people think about agents. For us, it's less about the agent itself, it's more about the flexibility for the workflow. Think about this example. This is a question, how can I maximize the value for what I've invested in system for the last 2 years? It's a very fair question, but it's meant for an external question, not an internal use. Same agents, different workflow. How can I dynamically change this for the understanding? That's how the power of the supervisor and the navigations goes from there. So you can see the agentic technology in reality, and this is running in production. So if you have time, I would recommend you to go in the booth. You have Vince and Amanda presenting yesterday, myself and others. That's going to show how we're running this environment in production, how many agents we have, the interaction between the supervisors and the agents. We use multiple models, as I said, the common on the cloud, and a predictive machine learning pipeline using predictive models of ML integrated with LLMs to accomplish the results. With that said, I want to wrap this conversation, share with you some key learnings and takeaways that we went through that process with us. So, first thing that I would recommend you, as I mentioned before, please define the use cases and the metrics first. Don't jump on the bandwagon because there is a new tool on the weekend, because next weekend is going to have a new one. And your team is going to get excited, and AI is moving at unprecedented speed, which is great. It's amazing to be on what's happening in our lifetime. But at the same time, if you define the use case, it's much better for you to measure it. At the same time, racks, prompts, few shots, supervisor fine-tuning, chains, come after you have the use case. There is a reason for that process. I'm stating the obvious, but I wouldn't believe how many times it's not used. Left on the right side, experimentation writing prototype is key. Sometimes, if you do have a team that's only focused in production, they have different metrics than the experimentation. The experimentation team has a latitude and degree of freedom to try and fail fast. So use that and have a dedicated team for evaluation too. I talk to my team and they know that you don't make this the dog the custodian of the sausages. It doesn't work like that. So you want the evaluation team to have the golden data sets and be able to say, hey, this stuff is not hitting the performance you need or the cost you need or the math you need, because it's the same team, people blend them all that stuff. So create this isolation, which helps you to achieve what you want. Last but not least, achieving high accuracy with stacks to SQL and enterprise use case is really, really hard. The 3-letter acronym is called SQL, and another 3-letter acronym is called LLM. They don't go on a date. They don't get along. So, boy, believe me, it is hard. So, we actually leverage this Snowflake context, semantic context of Cortex, just for the reference of metadata, but then normalize the date first. And if you believe in something that I'm saying, avoid using LLM with joins on SQL. It really sucks. Avoid hype, and inter-agent context and collaboration is critical. It goes beyond MCP. MCP is great, but MCP needs to be evolved. It's part of the industry starting. It's a Swiss cheese for now. We are working on this. And both system and LangChain have been changing an initiative that we put out there that's called Agency, which is a full architecture that we open source. The code is there, you can use it if you want. That goes beyond the only sharing of LLM protocols, MCP being one of those, could be H2A and all of those. But it's how we leverage the semantic layer, the syntactic layer across agents with a directory. When you go to the internet, the first thing that happens, you go to a DNS server, right? There is no notion of DNS server to agency, if you think about it. So bring all these notions of how you authenticate, you have an agent directory, we authenticate and make sure that you have this. There are companies that are working on it, startups that are bringing this. The LangChain insists with others on that slide. We are proposing a full architecture open source so that the industry will to authenticate items. With that said, I would like to thank you all for all the time that you have here. It's amazing conference. We have our teams on the booth. We go to the weeks and have the men running production. If you go through the traces, brace yourself, and let's go together. Thank you very much.
I don't even need it. No, good to go. Thank you, Carlos. I'd like to invite Jen and David to the stage, both executive directors at JPMorgan Chase, who will be sharing their story behind Ask David, their multi-agent system for investment research, built with LangChain. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here today at the end of our conference. A big thank you to the organizers for putting together such a great event and for inviting us to be able to share our journey with you today. My name is David. I'm here with my colleague, Jane and Jane. So, private bank we're part of the investment research team. And this is the team that's responsible for curating and managing lists of investment products and opportunities for our clients. Now, when I talk about a list, we're not talking about a few dozen or a few hundred products. We're talking about thousands of products, each backed by many years of very valuable data. So when you have such extensive lists of diverse products, questions are known. When there's a question, our small research team needs to go find an answer. So we go digging around databases, materials, files, and we piece together answers for the questions that come across our desks each and every day. Now, not only is this a very manual and time-consuming process, but this limits our ability to scale, and it really makes it difficult for us to provide insights into the products that we have in our project. So as a group, we got together, we challenged ourselves. We said, let's come up with a way to automate the investment research process, aiming to deliver precise and accurate results. Today, when you have a question, you come to me. Come to David, and David will give you an answer. So tomorrow, you'll be able to go Ask David, our AI-powered solution designed to transform the way we answer investment questions. With Ask David, we're aiming to provide curated answers, insights, and analytics delivered to you as quickly as you can ask a question. Now, I know you're all probably asking yourself, David, are you just putting yourself out of the job? Not quite. What we're doing is we're building the tools to make our jobs easier and much more efficient. The stakes here are high.